Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to my channel. I pray that you're all in the best of health and iman. If you are new, welcome. My name is Nafisa. I am a certified relationship and trauma informed coach. So if you're interested in being coached in those areas, you can find me over on my website, which I will leave linked in the description box down below. People often give the excuses of, I cheated because my needs were not met. My needs were not met because you were not able to physically meet my needs. My needs were not met in terms of you're not present, you're not there. So I was lonely. My needs were not met because you don't provide for me as I need you to provide for me. There are multiple different reasons why people feel that their needs are not met. And I hear of this quite often as well as I coach multiple women telling me that, I didn't mean to, but, he wasn't there for me, and this other person, they just seemed to be everything that I needed at the time. They were there for me at the time, and it just started off, we were just friends, and then here we are. It led to what it led to. Cheating can be a very horrific thing for the person who is being cheated on to experience. Here is my stance as far as cheating goes. Of course, you guys know I don't condone this type of behavior, but I can say that even though there can be some truths in some of the reasons why people cheat, it is still not a good enough reason to cheat. Personally, I'm of the opinion that if you're trying really hard to make your relationship work and the other person isn't interested in making it work, you are far better off just letting them go than cheating. Even if they have cheated on you, because sometimes it can be tempting to be like, oh, well, you can do it, I'll show you I can do it too. Do you think you're the only one that people are interested in? People are interested in me too. But what it does is it turns you into a person that you really don't want to become. You also give that other person a reason to come back at you and say, well, and you've also done X, Y, and Z. And so it tarnishes your integrity. It tarnishes your morals, who you are at your core. Adultery especially, which is cheating whilst you're married to somebody, in Islam is extremely punishable if you're found guilty. Extremely punishable. And this is done to deter people from thinking that this is a light matter. It is not a light matter. Cheating can cause so much wounds in the heart of the other person who has been cheated upon. Sometimes it happens because we feel, as I've said before, that our needs are not met. So if you're in a relationship where your needs are not being met, you really need to have a serious conversation with your spouse about how serious this is and the impact that it may potentially have. Now, by saying that, I don't mean go and threaten your spouse to tell them, if you don't start doing what I want, I'm going to go and cheat on you. No, it's letting them understand how damaging their negligence is upon your marriage. If it's due to negligence, if it's not due to negligence and it's due to them not being able to meet your needs because they don't have it within themselves to be able to meet your needs, then you have to come to a place where you make that crucial decision of, can I continue to live like this though? Can I be patient for some time until this person is in a better place? Because marriage is not a bed of roses. It's not going to be perfect all the time because life isn't perfect all of the time. So you are going to have your ups and downs. And sometimes you're going to need to be extremely patient. Whilst you're doing what you can, as the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, whilst you tie your camel and then you're putting your trust in Allah. So you're being patient, which is the putting your trust in Allah. But that also includes doing the best that you can to move things along in the positive way. Among the things that you can do is you can try couple counseling, right? You can try couple coaching, which I also offer, to talk through your issues, to really begin to work on the problems rather than waiting until it gets to a point where another partner feels like they have to go and cheat because the other one isn't meeting their needs. So managing our expectations is very, very important when it comes to this thing, because a lot of people feel as though the reasons why they go to cheat is because their needs are not met. Again, that is not an excuse to cheat on somebody. It is, in my eyes, is still unacceptable. It is still unacceptable because, again, if you really cannot handle it, you always have the option to exit. Islam is not a religion that forces you into a marriage for the rest of your life where you're trapped and you can never leave. No. If you choose to stay, you have to admit to the fact that you are choosing to stay in this relationship. You're not trapped in it. Nobody is trapping you. A man can leave his wife and a woman can also leave her husband. So if it has to get to a point where you have to cheat, at least exit that relationship before you end up doing something like that. But the absolute best way to deal with this type of situation is to try to resolve it, not ending your marriage and not cheating on your spouse. Those are last resorts. Of course, with the one cheating your spouse, it should never even be an option for you. If you're a woman of integrity or a man of integrity and you're watching this, cheating should never be an option for you. The next reason that people give for cheating is that, well, it was only that one time and it didn't mean anything. Really what they're saying here is, in that moment, I made a poor judgment, or I've made a series of poor judgments. I was weak and I gave into this weakness. I wasn't able to overcome it, but at least it was only once. Telling your spouse that it was only once, or just having it in your mind that it was only once, really adds salt to the injury. You know, if you have a wound and you add salt to it, it makes it more painful. That is exactly what is happening. Whether it happened once or it happened 10 billion times really doesn't make a difference as far as I'm concerned. The fact that it happened is that it happened. Now, is it possible that a person can be weak and fall into this at times? Absolutely. Which is why in Islam, we don't do male and females just randomly being friends, because it can lead to some of these things end up happening. And so when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says do not go near zina, it begins with not free mixing in the first place, so that you don't end up finding yourself in these type of scenarios. But of course, especially living in the West as I do, and I know a lot of you who watch these videos also live in Western societies, a lot of you live in non-Muslim societies. We don't really have that choice at times. At times you go to work and there's people of different genders, so it can be very difficult to observe that boundary. But at the end of the day, if you've fallen into it, do not ever make the mistake of adding to the pain by saying to your partner it was only once and it didn't mean anything. Because really, when you say it didn't mean anything, what you're really saying is it may not have meant anything to you, but it means everything to your spouse. And you actually have to acknowledge the fact that you have created a major wound here. You have broken a trust. Spouse who has cheated has to understand that they have a lot of work to do to rebuild that trust again in their marriages, especially. It's one thing when somebody who proposed to you then goes and does something like this. It's still bad, absolutely. But it's also another thing when it's actually your husband or actually your wife, somebody you're married to. So the spouse who did the cheating, they have a lot of work to do, and they should be prepared to do whatever it's going to take to rebuild that trust. Unfortunately, at times you find that spouses who did the cheating, they're so justified in their reason for cheating that they don't even want to engage in the helping the other partner to heal. They don't want to engage in that. If it's the man who cheated, he doesn't even want to pay for counseling for his wife to get help. He's just like, that happened ages ago, just get over it. If it's the lady, she's like, well, I don't see why I have to prove myself. It was only one time and I told him it was a mistake. I've already said sorry. Why is he not over it? Sometimes it takes a lot more than that. Because the cheating, what it does is it breaks the trust that person had for you. Now it's broken. You're going to have to rebuild that trust, because a relationship that has no trust in it, it doesn't stand on a very strong foundation. Any little bit of wind can come and blow and break that relationship. So that excuse that it only happened once only makes things worse, and it's something to be absolutely avoided. And in this scenario, couple counseling is absolutely necessary. And the healing for the other spouse who is cheated on is absolutely necessary as well. And it's going to take both partners working towards rebuilding what has been broken. The third reason that people give for cheating is, well, I didn't love him anyways, and he knows that. When we say that we don't love someone and yet we choose to stay, because again, I don't really believe that unless you're in a situation where it's life-threatening, you do still have your choice to leave. It may not be an easy one, but you do have your choice to leave. But you chose not to leave. You didn't love this person. You stayed and then you cheated. There is a weakness in that. that was not the best of choices. And so saying that, well, this person already knows that I don't love them anyways, they know that this relationship isn't going anywhere anyways, is still not an excuse. When you are in a committed relationship, for us Muslims, a marriage, you've made a commitment to one another. The other person is trusting you to be faithful. They are trusting you to be faithful. They are expecting you to be faithful. You not loving them anymore means that you can do something like this to harm them. What it does is it questions your sense of morality. Because that you don't love this person anymore. Actually, one of the best things you could do for them, you can do for them, is to let them go so that they can find someone who can love them and treat them well, especially if that person has been good to you. Even if they haven't been good to you though, sometimes it's like, I don't, there's something that I've been avoid saying because I actually want to get to it in my next point, but I can't hold out anymore. Where is your consciousness of God? And this is why I emphasize on ladies choosing men who are conscious of God, not only practicing wearing thobe and he's hafiz of the Quran, that's all well and good, but does he have the consciousness of Allah in him, in his character and how he actually behaves? Because if he does, him not cheating on you is not because he can't find another woman, or her not cheating on you is not because she can't find another man. It's because of the fear of Allah, the fear of God that is inside of them, in them knowing that zina is a major sin, in them knowing how displeased Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be with them, in them knowing that Allah will absolutely hold them accountable. That's the only thing that's going to prevent them. That is why I always say to my single ladies, prioritize choosing a man who truly fears Allah. And again, like I said, don't be clouded by the whole, he's a hafiz of Quran, he studied in Saudi Arabia, means he fears Allah. No, study his character. Study his character. Don't just jump into a relationship without studying someone's character, without getting references from other people who know him and who know how he behaves and how he is in his nature. Doing this and just jumping into marriage with somebody who just on paper looks good can be very damaging. And then when the damage is done, we're sat here questioning ourselves. And one of these ways that we can actually spot a person's character, look at his lifestyle. Look at his lifestyle. He may claim to be a Muslim, or she may claim to be a Muslim, but her lifestyle is not in line with Islam. So really, you should be asking yourself these questions before you leap. So going back to my point, I don't love her anymore. I don't love him anymore. He knows that, but he doesn't want to divorce me, or she doesn't want to divorce me. It's no excuse to cheat. If you fear God, you will know that cheating is out of the way. Do what is right by Allah, and automatically you will give other people their rights. Cheating is something that causes so much harm. It harms you, your integrity, your honor, and everything. If you've been a good spouse throughout, the second you go to cheat, all of that gets thrown aside. People will not see the fact that you've been patient and you've been trying all this while. All they will see is the fact that you cheated. Work on your marriage. Give marriage a second chances. Some marriages, they are better at the latter part instead of the beginning. You know, the beginning, most people say, oh, you know, the beginning things should be easy because it's a honeymoon phase. Some people's marriages actually struggle the most in the beginning, but later on, as they mature, as they grow, as they come closer to Allah, their relationships become far better. So give it another chance and work on it. Yes, it may have happened, but your relationship can still survive, and in fact, it can thrive afterwards. It just takes some work. The final one is one that I know a lot of Muslims are going to relate to, and that is the excuses that some Muslim men give that they are looking for a second wife, and oh, I'm going to marry her. Why is this not an excuse for adultery? Because adultery is adultery. Whether or not you're planning to marry the lady later, the fact is she is not yet your wife. And I want to say, for men who are looking for second wives, you have to be extra careful when you're looking for another wife to marry and how you go about getting to know that woman. Because the fact that you are married means if any mistakes happen with this other lady that you're getting to know, who is not yet your wife, The fact that you are a married man, Islamically, actually, the punishment will be very different for you because you are a married man. And so you have to be very, very careful, because it's already hard for your current wife to have her husband speaking to other women and to use that as an excuse to say, yeah, well, this mistake happened, but I'm planning to marry her, as though that makes it okay. It doesn't make it okay. The sin is still there, because when it happened, she was not your wife. Muslim men, we know you have the right to polygamy. You have to be very careful in how you go about finding another woman, in how you go about wooing another woman for marriage, in how you go about getting to know another woman for marriage when you are already married. If you're not careful with this, as I've always been saying throughout this video, you will break the trust that your current wife has for you. It's going to make your future relationships harder. When you do that, do not turn around and question your current wife's iman. Oh, Allah allowed me, so why are you not accepting it? You have to be fair, be merciful, show extra love to your first wife as you go about this journey of looking for another one. And do not think under any circumstance that if you fall into zina with the second woman who is not yet your wife, that you marrying her later on justifies what you've done. It doesn't. It's not a justification for cheating. Please, Muslim men, understand this. Please understand this. A lot of you men, you dare not see another man look at your wife in some kind of a way. You will go crazy. But it baffles me how you don't seem to understand how hard it can also be for a woman, knowing that women are even more emotional than you men generally. So if it hurts you that much, just seeing another man looking at your wife, imagine how painful it is for a woman who experiences emotions far more intensely to know that you're with another woman. It's even more painful for her emotionally. Now, this message is for the men who care, because I know some men are like, I couldn't care less. In which case, girl, that's a story for another day. But as a man who wants to treat his family with kindness, with love and compassion, you have to learn to be very strict with yourself if you are in the process of looking for a second wife or a third one or a fourth one. All I have to say to you Muslim men on that is, look at the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That he married multiple wives. He was never unjust to the ones he currently have in the process of looking for another one. He was never unjust. He was never unkind. He didn't show them any less love. He didn't start to disregard the first one because he's found a new shiny thing. If you really want to follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, this polygamy thing will be, a lot less dramatic if the man manages it in a very wise way. And the few who've managed it in wise ways and have selected their wives also very carefully, they tend to find polygamy works for them. And it's not so much of a drama. But the problem comes in when the man isn't wise about what he's doing. When he begins to see his first wife as a piece of trash because he's found a shiny object. And when the woman that he selects isn't also a very good woman, isn't a God-fearing woman, then it just creates this whole problem. So Muslim men, do not use polygamy as an excuse to cheat on your wives. Until you marry that woman and she's Islamically yours, you have no business engaging with anything like that with her. If you have, you need to ask your wife for forgiveness. You need to admit to your mistake. You need to show some remorse for your mistake, because it is a mistake if she's not your wife and you've had anything, engagement like that with her. She's not your wife and you are a married man. What you have done is a very major sin. You need to do a complete tawbah, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness first and foremost. And then if your wife is aware of it, you must ask her for forgiveness and you must put in the work that is necessary to repair what has been broken. So these are some of the reasons why people give for cheating. As you can see, none of them are good enough reasons. Yeah, maybe he doesn't have a lot of time for you. Maybe he was neglectful of you. Maybe you did try to be patient, but you just couldn't take it anymore. but it's still not a good enough excuse. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to remain within the boundaries of Islam, because it protects us from so much, and it protects our relationships as well. If we're good and we follow the path of Allah, and we handle our difficult times with patience, with sabr and prayer, and also putting in our own effort to better our situation, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely come to our aid, and we will have a lot less drama in our lives. So if you're a couple that's going through a similar difficulty as some of the things I've discussed in this video, you can book a coaching session with me, and inshallah, I may be able to help you. If you've enjoyed this video, definitely make sure you give it a thumbs up. Share it with any brother or sister out there whom you think will benefit from the content of today's video. And I will see you in my next one. Assalamu alaikum.